Hello everyone, welcome to the course Geotechnical Engineering 2. So in this module number 4 and lecture number 3, we will be discussing on the bearing capacity determination methods. Okay, so if we look at the course outline, so we are in the initial phase of our foundation design of shallow foundation analysis where we will be determining the bearing capacity in case of shallow foundation. Okay, so we have different methods for the determination of this bearing capacity. So let us now look at what we have discussed in the previous lecture as well. Coming to the previous lecture, we have understood the basic definitions such as allowable bearing capacity or Gauss bearing capacity, all such parameters. And then we have understood the criteria that is required for the determination of bearing capacity. Later, we have understood the factors that are affecting the bearing capacity. Okay, and then we have understood the different methods that are there for the determination of bearing capacity. So coming to today's lecture, so let us look at the different methods that are there for the determination of bearing capacity. So the first one is the Rankin's analysis, the other one is the Terzaghis analysis, and then we have the Prandtl analysis, and then we have Hosentloger analysis, and then we have Skenton's method, and then we have the Meyerhoff's method, and finally the Indian standard methods. So out of all these methods, these are some of the methods are interlinked, where in our particular syllabus we have the Terzaghis analysis and Indian standard methods. However, the basics of the Rankin's method is very much important, and for Terzaghis analysis we need to understand the Prandtl's analysis, okay, where the Terzaghis analysis is a continuation to Prandtl's analysis. Okay, so let us now look at one by one more in detail. So coming to the Rankin's analysis, so this analysis was given by William Rankin. Okay, so he stated that this method is completely based on the Rankin's earth pressure theory, and it is too approximate. That means this method is considering a wedge sort of failure instead of a uneven failure. Okay, as we have discussed the wedge failure cases in slope stability, so a similar concept is applied here. That is why this is an approximate method, and it is conservative for practical use. Okay, now, so Rankin considered that the plastic equilibrium of two adjacent soil elements, that means beneath any foundation, if you imagine me as a foundation, he considered two elements, one exactly below me and the other one exactly beside me. So let us consider the same case in case of foundation. So if there is a shallow foundation, under the shallow foundation he considered one element, and beside the shallow foundation he considered another element. So that is as follows. So as I have stated, if you consider this as a foundation, so he considered two elements, one exactly beneath the foundation or any surcharge load, and the other element just beside the element 1, which is outside the loading area. Okay, so if you look at this particular element 1 and element 2, so in this case of element 1, for element 1 the vertical load here is nothing but the surcharge load. Okay, however there is a lateral pressure. But in case of element 2, if you look at this element 2, here the vertical load is the self weight of the soil above it. That means it is something, say gamma into the depth d, where the element which has been considered, as well as there is some lateral force or stress, so which is actually occurred due to this element 1. Okay, so let us look at this more in detail now. So for this particular element, since the surcharge load, because of this surcharge load Q, you say, it is acting vertically on this element number 1. Okay, so this is the major stress here. Okay, so that is why this particular plane is known as the major principal plane, and the other plane, okay, it is given by the minor principal plane. This is minor principal plane, and the stress which is acting is minor principal stress, and here it is major principal plane, and the stress which is acting is major principal stress. But in case of element number 2, if you look at this case, since some external pressure is applied on this particular element number 2, so this plane is major principal plane. Okay, since gamma into d, whatever vertical force that is coming due to this particular load so of soil, so this is the minor principal plane. Okay, So that we need to understand. So that is the major difference here. Clear? Now, so looking at the Rankins analysis here, this is assumed that the footing pressure whatever that is coming is nothing but the ultimate bearing capacity. That means when the footing load is the actual ultimate load that the soil can take, then what is happening? The element 1 attains plastic equilibrium. Okay, that means when the footing is applying some load and this load is the ultimate load that the soil beneath can take, then the element 1 just attains a plastic equilibrium. Okay, and the element 1 fails only when the adjacent element 2 also fails. That means it is interlinked. If element 1 failing means obviously element 2 is also failing. So these two are interlinked. Now, if you look at the element 1, if you recollect what we have seen in the diagram, so the vertical force that is coming is nothing but the QU from the diagram what we have drawn, and the horizontal force, that is the minor principal stress, say that is sigma 3. So it is given by tan square 45 degree minus 5 by 2 into sigma 1. Okay, and for element 2 also sigma 3, that means the vertical, in this case the vertical sigma v is nothing but minor principal stress, so that is why it is sigma 3. So it is gamma into df. So from these three equations, okay, so let us substitute this sigma 3 is gamma df in this particular expression. So we can obtain that sigma 1 is equals to gamma df by this tan square 45 degree minus 5 by 2. So that is what, from these equations we can obtain sigma 1 as gamma into df into tan square 45 degree minus 5 by 2. Okay, now using this sigma 1 equal to QU and this equation, let us substitute QU here. Okay, so this is equation 1 and this is equation 2. So using these two equations now, so solving, we can obtain that tan square 45 degree minus 5 by 2 into QU is equal to gamma df into tan square 45 minus 5 dash by 2. Okay, so these two, from this expression on further simplification we can obtain QU. Okay, and upon further simplification you can also write down this as gamma into df into, instead of the denominator being tan power 4 45 minus 5 dash by 2, you can replace it with tan power 4 45 degrees plus 5 dash by 2. Clear? So apart from that, we have seen in the earlier sessions that tan square 45 degree plus 5 by 2 is nothing but 1 minus sin phi dash by 1 plus sin phi dash. Since it is tan power 4, this can be written as 1 minus 1 plus sin phi dash by 1 minus sin phi dash whole square. Okay, so this is our ultimate equation based on Rankins analysis. So we can obtain the ultimate bearing capacity if we know the depth of the foundation, gamma, phi, that is angle of internal resistance. Okay, apart from that, for the design of any foundation, if we know the ultimate bearing capacity of the soil, then we can determine the depth of foundation also. In this equation, if you know QU, that means if I know this value of QU, the bearing capacity of soil, and if I know the unit weight of soil, and if I know the angle of internal resistance, then I can find the depth of foundation that I can construct at a particular site location. Clear? So that is how we need to find out the depth of foundation. Now the approximate value of bearing capacity. So as I have stated, the Rankins analysis is an approximate method. So it is the approximate value of bearing capacity is determined here. Okay. Now, so coming to the Terzaghi's bearing capacity theory. Okay, so this is a general theory for the determination of bearing capacity of soils considering the footing as a strip footing. Okay, that means this case which is given by Terzaghi is only considering the strip footing. Okay, so for that he has considered some of the assumptions. So let us now look at these assumptions first. Okay, he stated that the footing base is rough. That means whatever base of the footing that is there, it is actually not smooth and it is rough, and the footing is laid at a shallow depth. Okay, that means it is laid at a shallow depth. And the other one is the shear strength of the soil above the footing is neglected. That means above the footing, whatever soil that is there, the shear strength for that particular soil is neglected, and the soil above is actually replaced by a surcharge load. Okay, that means whatever QU what we have discussed till now, he has replaced the entire soil by a surcharge load. And the load on the footing is vertical, so whatever load that is coming through the footing is nothing but it is vertical, and it is uniformly distributed onto the soil. Okay, so along the footing, strip footing area, it is uniformly distributed. And then the footing is long, that means the L by B ratio is infinite. He assumed the footing to be a longer one. And the shear strength of the soil is governed by the Mohr-Coulomb equation. So whatever Mohr-Coulomb equation that we have discussed in module 1, so that equation is used to determine the shear strength of soil. That is tau is equals to C dash plus sigma bar tan phi dash. Okay, so that is the modified Mohr-Coulomb equation. So coming to the Bradley's theory, so in this particular theory, he has considered a strip footing below which he considered the failure zones. Okay, that means below this particular strip footing, he has considered, due to this external load applied, he has considered the failure zones. So if you look at this particular diagram here, this is a foundation having width B, and let us say QU is the ultimate load that is coming onto this particular soil. So he considered the failure zones beneath this particular foundation, where this is one failure zone 1, and this is failure zone 2, and this is failure zone 3, in such manner. Okay, so failure zone 1 is in the form of a triangular wedge. Okay, and failure zone 2 and 3 are based on the shear zones. Okay, these are the shear zones, and zone 3 that is given here are nothing but a triangular wedge, which is nothing but given as the Rankine's passive pressure. Okay, so now as I have stated, so zone 1 is completely based on the compressive stress, and zone 2, as the foundation that is sinking down, zone 1 that is present here, this is actually, since it is a rough base, so it is actually attached, and so maximum compressive load is taken as a single unit, and it is now trying to deviate the zone 2. Okay, so now the zone 1 is exerting the pressure on zone 2. So this triangle ABC is the zone 1, so it is exerting pressure on the zone 2, and in turn the pressure is exerted on the zone 3. And similarly, the zone 3 is now attaining a plastic equilibrium state, and this zone 2 is now pushing the zone 3 upwards. Okay, so this type of failure is generally called as the general shear failure. Okay, now the Terzaghi now considered the extension of this Brandt's theory. That means he considered the failure under the strip footing as a shear zones. Okay, so he has considered this particular diagram in a similar manner, where this is the foundation, and below the foundation this is one particular wedge. So this is the particular wedge. Okay, so this is my zone 1 now. So this is completely due to the surcharge loading. Okay, since the foundation base is rough, it is considered as a single load that is coming down, and because of this particular pressure that is exerted, there is another zone considered. Okay, since it is symmetric, so this zone, additional zone, is considered as a radial shear zone. Okay, this additional zone 2 is considered as a radial shear zone, and the curve or the bottom region, this is called as the arc of logarithmic spiral. Okay, and apart from this, the third zone that is present here, okay, where zone 2 is now trying to push this particular region. So this is zone 3, and this is known as Rankine's passive zone. Okay, that means it is Rankine's passive zone. Since there is some compression taking place, that means there is some passive pressure acting, so that is why it is Rankine's passive zone. So since it is symmetric, the same is observed on the other side also. So now, for our particular derivation case, okay, to understand the state of equilibrium, okay, so we will be considering this particular wedge and the forces acting due to this particular radial zone as well as Rankine's passive zone on this particular wedge. So this theory is completely based on the limit equilibrium approach, okay, where we will be considering the wedge. So for this, let us consider the width of this particular foundation as B, capital B, okay, and this angle is phi dash, okay, this angle is phi dash, and let W be the self weight of this particular wedge alone, okay. And so let us say this foundation load Q is actually coming onto this uniformly, so let us denote this as QU, okay. So Q is the amount of load coming onto the soil and it is having a width B. Let us consider this on a two-dimensional plane, okay, and let phi dash be the angle of internal friction for this particular wedge and W be the self weight that is coming down. And for this particular wedge, if you look at here, along these surfaces, along the surfaces which I am highlighting once again, okay, there is a passive pressure that is acting, okay, upwards because of this radial shear zone and Rankine zone, as well as there is some coercive force along the directions, okay, along the surfaces, okay. So this also has to be considered, okay. Make sure you just note down this particular diagram here, okay. Now, so let us now try to draw this particular diagram for our more detailed understanding. Let us consider the equilibrium of this particular wedge, okay. I am just drawing the triangular wedge. Let us denote this as A, B and C, okay. So this is phi dash and this is also phi dash. Let us say that QU is coming onto this particular type of soil, okay. This is uniformly distributed, this is QU, and let B be the width, so the width be capital B, width be capital B, okay. So B is the width of this particular wedge. Now, so let W be the self weight of this particular wedge alone, and at this particular plane, as we have stated, there is coercive force C as well as passive pressure PP, okay, at this particular range. So if I draw a perpendicular onto this, this angle is phi dash. Since this is phi dash, this angle will also be phi dash now, okay. So based on the equilibrium of forces, since this is exactly at the center, okay, so let us now consider only this particular distance and let us say AC, this length AC is equal to this length BC is equal to Li. Let us denote in this manner, okay. So let us consider this particular wedge alone now, okay. Let us consider this particular wedge A, B and C. Since this is exactly divided, so this distance will be B by 2, okay, and this distance is Li and this is phi dash, okay. Let us say this is some x is the distance, the height of this particular wedge. So from this particular diagram, if we can observe clearly, I can write down that tan phi dash is equal to, it is opposite side by adjacent side, so this is x by b by 2. So from this I can obtain x as b by 2 tan phi dash, b by 2 tan phi dash, okay. So I have obtained x. So can I calculate the area of this particular wedge now? Since it is a triangle, so I can evaluate the area, that is half into base into height. Here half into base is AB and height is x. So therefore I can write down area of wedge in zone 1, okay, as that is half into base is AB, that is width B, into the height is x, so it is b by 2 tan phi dash, b by 2 tan phi dash. So simply I can denote this as b square by 2 tan phi dash, b square by 2 tan phi dash. So this is the area of this particular wedge. So from this particular diagram, let us try to evaluate the upward forces as well as the downward forces. Since to maintain this in equilibrium, the downward forces that is coming must be equal to the upward force that are acting. Okay. So from this, if you look at the downward forces, let me just write down the downward forces. Downward forces. Okay. So what is the first type of downward force that is here? We can simply look that there is some surcharge load coming. So it is surcharge load. Okay. So this I can write down as QU, which is acting upon the particular area. So into B into, since I have considered only a two-dimensional plane, it is 1. Okay. So the other type is the self weight of soil. Self weight of soil. So what is the self weight of soil? It is nothing but, we know unit weight is weight by volume. So weight is unit weight into volume. So from this I can clearly write unit weight gamma into the volume. So volume is area into unity, since we have considered only a two-dimensional plane. So it is b square by 2, sorry, this is 4, b square by 4 tan phi dash, okay, into 1. So this is how we got the downward forces. Similarly, let us try to evaluate the upward forces as well. So from this particular diagram, we know the upward force is PP. Okay, that is the passive pressure. And there is the cohesion C. So here cohesion C, it has to be resolved. So how is cohesion C acting? If you see, C is nothing but along the same direction. If I have to represent C, this is C which is acting in this particular direction. So that will be C into sin phi dash. So PP and C into sin phi dash is nothing but the additional upward forces. Okay, so to maintain this in equilibrium, let us try to equate the upward forces as well as the downward forces. Okay, let us equate the downward forces. Downward forces is equal to upward forces. Okay, we have obtained the downward forces and now we are equating it to the upward forces. So what is the downward force that we have obtained? First one is QU into width B plus, what is the other downward force? That is the self weight. So it is gamma into b square by 4 into tan phi dash, which is now equal to the upward force. Since along the two sides, there are two sides of the particular wedge, so there is 2 pp, okay, the passive pressure, and then we have the cohesion. So the cohesion is now considered 2c into sin phi dash. Okay, so this is what we have obtained. But if you look at here, this 2c sin phi dash is some stress. Okay, but it is acting along the particular length. Okay, if you consider the wedge, it is acting along the inclined surface. So that is why we have to consider the length also, that is 2c sin phi dash into Li. So this is our equation that what we have obtained. So further simplification, I write down this as Qu into B is equal to 2 pp plus 2c sin phi dash into Li, okay, minus gamma b square by 4 into tan phi dash. So this is what I have obtained now. Let us denote this as equation number 1. Okay. Now, so this is what we have obtained. This we have denoted this as equation number 1. But here the term pp, okay, if you consider this term pp, this is nothing but passive pressure. Okay, that means for this particular wedge whatever we have considered, if you see the wedge that what we have considered here, that is A, B and C, and this is phi dash and this is also phi dash. Okay, so for this particular wedge here PP is acting, and similarly for this particular case also PP is acting here. Okay, so here, since if you consider the zones here, so there will be some other zone in this manner. Okay, and there is this zone here. Okay, this is one zone and this is the other zone here. Okay, so in this case, because of zone 2 it is exerting some pressure on this PP, as well as there is influence of this surcharge load, additional surcharge load that is coming. Okay, that is QU is coming, surcharge load, as well as the self weight of this particular soil is also acting here. So that is why this PP is some entity that is completely influenced by different parameters, that is, say, the unit weight of the soil, as well as the cohesive force that is acting along the surface, okay, as well as the surcharge load. That means it is influenced by three parameters. It is influenced by three parameters. Okay, so this is what we need to understand. So now let us look at what is the influence here. Okay, so as I have stated, the passive resistant PP on the surfaces is based on three different components. So the first component is due to the soil shear zone 1. Okay, so whatever soil that is present, due to that, as the soil in this case is assumed to be cohesionless and it is not having surcharge. Okay, so it is denoted by PP gamma. That means this is one parameter. And in the other case, it is considered the effect of cohesion, okay, and the weight is not considered, as well as the surcharge is neglected. So that is why CC is mentioned here. And in the other aspect, it is PPQ. So the surcharge alone is considered here, and the cohesionness as well as the weight is not considered. Okay, so that is why PP is some entity in terms of PP gamma, PPC and PPQ. That means the unit weight, the cohesion and the surcharge load influence. Okay, so this you need to understand. So substituting this in equation, so we can obtain as 2 into PP gamma plus PPC plus PPQ. Okay, this is one entity. Plus we have the other entities. So in this case, let us now replace them. Terzaghi has replaced these entities in a certain format. That is, he substituted the unit weight or the soil terms. Okay, so he replaced the soil terms. That is, let us say 2 PP gamma, as well as the other soil term is gamma B square by 4 tan phi dash. So that he replaced with 0.5 gamma B N gamma into B. Okay, where N gamma is bearing capacity factor. He considered this as one bearing capacity factor. And similarly, he considered 2 PPC plus BC tan phi dash, this as another entity, and he represented this as B dash into CNC, where NC is another bearing capacity factor. And similarly, he considered 2 PPQ as B into Q NQ. Okay, so this is NQ is another bearing capacity factor. So in this manner, he represented these, okay, with some bearing capacity factors, and he has given QU as in this manner. So cancel outing B, so we can finally obtain the ultimate bearing capacity as 0.5 gamma B N gamma plus CNC plus QNQ, where N gamma, where NC and NQ are the bearing capacity factors. So these three are the bearing capacity factors, and this equation is given for the strip footing, and this equation is given for the strip footing. Okay, so that is regarding the entire derivation for the determination of bearing capacity for the case of strip footing. Okay, now So in the upcoming lecture we will be understanding some of the other concepts related to this bearing capacity, okay, and some of the methods as well. Okay, so that's it for today. I hope you have understood very well. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.